going into our Week 15 matchups, the two winner bracket matchups are Doug versus the Beaties and me versus Timmy. So let's go into you versus the Beaties first. And in that matchup, it is, you know, man, the Beaties are hitting their stride at the perfect time.
Primed. They are absolutely primed.
They're starting to hit on all cylinders. Yes, Gurley, had a bad game as you mentioned earlier, but McCaffrey is still scoring touchdowns. I think Gurley's going to have a great game. Stephon Diggs is still doing well, even though the Vikings offense isn't really doing all that well. Gronk is now finally healthy. He still looks very, very awkward looking at him run, but now he's as healthy as he's going to be, and he's producing. And Tariq Cohen, I didn't think he was going to be a top 12 running back coming into the year, but he's multifaceted. He's scoring touchdowns on the ground, in the air, throwing them. A very good pickup by them last year, and for them to hold on to them. So scary lineup that they have on their side. Moving over to you, you got a couple players hurt. You got Tyreek Hill, who he's going to play tomorrow, but he's not going to be 100%. I don't know. I don't remember seeing what a less than 100% Tyreek Hill looks like in a regular season game, but he still finished off the Baltimore game pretty strong. So, I don't agree with the 16.2 projection, but I still think he's going to have a good game, 14 points. And when it comes to Tyreek Hill, he just needs one bomb in order to score 20-plus points. So don't think that's going to hurt you. The other injury that I think is going to hurt you is Austin Eckler.
Yep.
And now you have to play Elijah McGuire. Although I disagree with that projection. He's getting 7.2. I think he's going to get closer to 10. He's not a bad player. He's a better version of Isaiah Crowell. So not a bad, but he's going against Houston, and Houston's got a really good defense. The guys that you need to pull through for you are your basically the guys that have put you over the top in most recent weeks. So that's Pat Mahomes, Amari Cooper, and Travis Kelce to sort of hide the Elijah McGuire and Theo Riddick that you have in your lineup. I'm gonna take the dog in this match. I'm gonna take you, not because I like you, not because I think you're gonna win, but I just if I win, I don't know if I want to face the Beaties, so I'm gonna take you. Go on.
Tough one here. The Gurley McCaffrey combo is fairly deadly, the number 1 and 3 running backs respectively. I don't understand how teams can't stop McCaffrey because there's literally nothing else on that offense. My hope is that Sean Payton is a good enough football coach that he can find a way to at least get them covered out of the backfield and hold them, under 5 grabs, let's say, and with a marginal yardage total. Gurley going against Philly, you said Philly's a decent run defense, but they've actually been getting gashed of late. Dallas gashed him, New Orleans gashed him, the Giants gashed him, Dallas gashed him again last week. My only hope there is honestly that they get a lead early and they just play the other asshole. Cousins has been quiet. If they leave Cousins in there, I feel a little bit better, I guess, but that the Vikings are also favored pretty heavily in that game, so there's a chance he goes for a pretty big Diggs. That could be my marching order. Cook's another good matchup. I just got to hope that some of these guys don't go completely off. Cohen, you mentioned, has been hot. Gronkowski in a game that I think New England wants very badly, so they will not hesitate to use him early and often. Even the defense has a good matchup, and it's a good defense. Definitely going to be tough for me on my side. You hit on it. I need Cooper, Holmes, and I got to kind of hope for some unexpectedly high production from a Riddick or an Ivory or a McGuire. Somebody's got to like fall into the end zone twice on accident for me to kind of stay in this thing. I think it's doable. Maybe a little Cowboys pick six. Andrew Luck gets a little loose with the ball sometimes. I need something to break right. Maybe Philip Lindsay goes for another big day. Something's got to go right for me to win the game. I will take myself. I think it's uncomfortably close, and that's all I got.
Yep. It's never good when you're going into a matchup and you're hoping the other team, their studs, don't have a blow up game, and you're hoping that your side, half your team, has blow up games. So
The other thing I will say, you touched on the Hill injury. I think the only thing helping me in that one is that they're playing the Chargers, which is just an unbelievably important game in that division and in the AFC in general. So the Chiefs really want to win this game to kind of put to rest some home field advantage. And I think that means they'll use Hill if there's no risk of him, further injuring himself.
yeah, if they win this game, they pretty much lock up the number one seed. If they lose this game, they could end the season as a number five seed. So it's a big game for them and also the Chargers. So they're going to need all the Tyreek Hill that they can get. Moving into my matchup with Timmy, I'm going to let you have the floor in regards to this matchup first before I go into it.
This is a good one. I think, let me actually back out here. Let me back up. Let me get the preview up. Let me see if I got some check marks. Let me see where the check marks lie in this one. The big key, obviously, for Timmy is going to be Gordon. Does he play? If he plays, how effective and healthy is he? Officially listed as questionable. You never know what that really means. In order for Timmy to keep this thing within shouting distance, it's got to be Thielen and Kamara and Roethlisberger. I think if those three guys put up, ceiling type games, not huge games, but above average games, I think he stays right in it. Then you throw in, does Jared Cook take advantage of a really good matchup, or does a Derrick Henry build off of last week and in a pretty good matchup against the Giants? And does he throw up, maybe two more touchdowns and 100 yards? Then he's cooking. Then he's gotten the Saints playing Carolina. Carolina's been outside of McCaffrey, as I mentioned, they got nothing on offense. So Saints defense is a nice play. Again, Gordon. Does Gordon get it going if he's in the game? Do they use him? This is that same game we mentioned that the Chargers need it. So if he's healthy, I got to imagine he's in there. If he's healthy enough, I should say. Hilton, bad matchup. Bad matchup for T.Y. Hilton going against Dallas. Dallas has been pretty stingy against the pass, third-ranked pass defense. That's kind of what's going on his side. For you, you keep slotting Cook in there. I guess he's been respectable. He just doesn't look great out there. He takes big losses. Mixon's been pretty awesome, pretty consistent, giving you, 10 to 15 a week on average. That's solid. Julio coming off a big game. Then you get, Keenan Allen. That tandem is really good in that. Although Kansas City is getting Eric Berry back this week, that could be a little problematic for Allen, I would think. Gordon is a player I really like this week. We're going to touch on it in the locks. I think New England rolls. And maybe they don't roll, but I think it's definitely a shootout. And I think that bodes well for Gordon. Ertz is kind of the only thing that Philly's got, and it sounds like it's going to be Nick Foles. He likes throwing to Ertz. The Rams, I think, will be content to give up some production over the middle in the passing game, just not let the home run hitters go. So I think this one's going to be high scoring. I'm going to take you, but it's going to be razor thin, like 148 to 146 and a half.
Talk about a monologue. I mean, that was in-depth analysis right there. I don't know if I'm going to go on that long. I'm really nervous about this matchup. Not because I think Timmy's going to smoke me. It's more so I don't like a lot of my matchups on my side. And we mentioned, that Julio Jones and Keenan Allen have been doing well recently. I don't think Eric Berry's going to be, the reason why Keenan Allen doesn't do well. I think it's Fuller, Kendall Fuller. He's their slot cornerback, and he's pretty good. The way you beat the Chiefs is on the outside, not so much on the inside. So don't love the matchup for Keenan Allen. I do love the matchup for Josh Gordon going against the Steelers as long as he stays away from Joe Hayden. Although the Steelers have done well in the second half of the season against the pass, they have one side of the field that is pretty wide open for really good receivers. But going back to Julio Jones, he's going to be shadowed by Patrick Peterson the entire game. That's a great matchup to watch as a fan. Not so much when you have Julio Jones on your team. So don't love that matchup. You mentioned that Dalvin Cook doesn't look right. I actually feel the opposite. I think he's getting healthier and healthier as the season has progressed. He's making people miss more tackles. The more and more touches that he's getting, he's on the field catching passes. And going against Miami, who doesn't really have that great of a defense, I really, really like that matchup. I actually believe that in order for me to win this matchup, I'm going to need Dalvin Cook and Joe Mixon to have 20-plus point games. They have great matchups, especially Mixon going against Oakland. I'm going to need them to pretty much carry my team because I don't like Deshaun Watson going against the Jets. Although the Jets aren't an amazing defense, Deshaun is on the road in New York, and he's had good games, he's had bad games. He hasn't really had, outside of one game, a blow-up game. You mentioned Nick Foles is now the quarterback, for Zach Ertz. There was only 2 games that he was the quarterback for him this year, and he actually had an okay game and a really good game, so who knows what happens there. George Kittle going against the Seahawks. Their defense looks lights out, so don't love George Kittle's matchups. And then I'm really hoping that Damian Williams picks up that number 1 role in the Chiefs' offense and that they don't sprinkle in some of their number 2 and number 3 running backs in there. So, I don't love the matchups on my side. And when you look at Timmy's side, he's got really good matchups on his end. Carolina's defense isn't really all that great outside of Luke Kuechly, so I think Alvin Kamara is going to have a good game there. If Melvin Gordon plays, we don't know how much he's going to play, but if he does get a good workload, that's a great matchup going against Kansas City. You did say that T.Y. going against Byron Jones in Dallas, that's a bad matchup, but again, Miami going against Adam Thielen, that's a great matchup for Thielen. DJ Moore going against New Orleans. Eli Apple sucks as a cornerback, so we should see a lot of him. Jared Cook going against Cincinnati, that's a great matchup. Derrick Henry going against the Giants defense, not a great defense, but he just had 200 yards, so who knows if he follows that up. I like Timmy's matchups, and that's what gets me nervous about this game. I'm not going to pick against myself, especially in the playoffs, but if there was ever a week that I could fall, unfortunately, it looks like it could be week 1 of the playoffs. But I'm going to pick myself and hope for the best. Going into the losers bracket matchups, Sean and Nick have a first round bye, but there's still 2 games, and that's Tommy versus Scotty and Brian versus the Barretts. So Tommy versus Scotty, I don't think there's a lot of analysis that we have to go into here. Tommy, he's got his arguably his 2 best players, 2 out of his 3 best players in bad matchups. The Rodgers and Aaron Jones combination going against Chicago, that's not a great matchup. And DeAndre Hopkins going against the Jets, they're probably going to focus all of their defensive attention against DeAndre Hopkins because they don't really have anything else there. So not great matchups for those 3 guys, but Woods, great matchup against Philly. Mac, not a great matchup. So now as I'm going through this, I actually don't like a lot of Tommy's matchups. But hey, look at that second flex that he has in there. Deshaun Hamilton picking up the Emmanuel Sanders role in the slot.
He's a guy. He's a guy.
Hey, I mentioned him in my my rookie draft analysis that said he can be a good player. He out of Penn State. He played the most snaps out of all the receivers on the Broncos, and he did well. So I think in that matchup going against Cleveland, he could do well. Going over to Scotty's side, he's going to need Devontae Adams to get 4 touchdowns. Although Doug Martin playing against maybe more. Doug Martin going against Cincinnati, that's an underrated matchup for him. Hopefully Breida comes back because he's the number 1 running back on that team. I'm going on and on. I don't think Scotty has enough to keep up with Tommy, but I really think this is going to be a low matchup based off of the individual player matchups that each one of these guys are going against. But I'm going to take Tommy in this one. What do you think?
Yeah, I'll take Tommy in a sleepy one.
Going into Brian versus the Barretts, Brian doesn't have. He hasn't made a couple changes. His projected points is going to go up from 89 points because he's got Wentz and McCoy in there. And as we said, both of those guys are 99% not going to play. But outside of those players, he's got some good matchups of Antonio Brown going against New England. Let me ask you this, kind of off topic. Who would you rather have next year, just 1 year, Antonio Brown or Juju Smith?
Antonio Brown, not close.
You don't think it's close? I think it's at least a debate.
Nah. I'll take one more year of AB. And listen, I see where you're coming from, but I'm willing to die on that sword. I'll die on the Antonio Brown sword. There's a lot of guys you don't want to be a year late on. I'll be a year late on Antonio Brown.
Hey, I said before the season that Antonio Brown was better than Julio Jones. I've been proven wrong. Julio Jones is the best wide receiver in the NFL, but I think it's a little bit of a debate.
Antonio Brown for 2 years was better than Julio Jones.
A better producer, not a better athlete.
Better. I would say he's a better athlete, not as properly built for the position that he plays.
Julio Jones became the only wide receiver in NFL history to have 5 seasons of 1,400 yards.
Insane.
Yeah. So I was wrong about that.
Potentially the best there ever was. If he ever played with an offensive line or a marginally better quarterback, that dude would be ridiculous.
Yeah, he'd be up there with.
You put Julio Jones with Ben Roethlisberger, my God.
Yeah, he would be in the conversation of like Randy Moss and those wide receivers. Who knows? He's got a couple seasons yet left in his prime, so he could be. We went off topic a little bit too long. Going over to Kevin's side, he's got the names on his team. You know, Mike Evans, the Alshon Jeffries, the Leonard Fournettes, but they haven't really been producing all that great. Cam Newton, he's playing hurt. I think Kevin's going to win this matchup just because he has more high-profile players on his team. But I don't like the Evans going against Baltimore matchup. I don't like the Jeffrey matchup going against the Rams. I don't like Cam Newton going against New Orleans. I think this is also going to be another low-scoring game. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be as high scoring as maybe it could have been if we looked at this matchup a couple weeks back. But I think it'll be okay. I think we can sometimes kind of fall victim to the matchups here. Sometimes good players can produce despite matchups. Boardman's got some guys coming around. I mean, Pettis, Landry had a nice game. Brown had a down game, but I think he's fine. And it sounds like Roethlisberger is going to be fine, going to play. The problem here is the quarterback and the running back. He actually doesn't have much else to really work with at running back. It's actually going to get pretty ugly. I guess for that reason, I'll take the Barretts. You know, Justin Jackson should be a nice little play there, especially if Gordon doesn't go. Barkley should eat. Ingram in a good matchup. Fournette too. You know, they got some guys who can throw up some numbers.
Yeah, I think it's going to be close, but low scoring, and the Bears come away with the win. All right, so now our betting locks of the week. I actually did like 5 minutes worth of research before we got connected, and I'm going to go into.
How about you kick it off?
Yeah, I'll go into it first off of my good old college try research. The first one I'm going to go with is the Monday night game of New Orleans versus Carolina. Do you see it as -6?
I see 7. I'll give you 6. I'll let you take it at 6. That line will probably come down.
It was at 6.5. All right. Anyway, I like New Orleans based off of what we recently just said about Carolina's defense not really performing all that great. They only have Luke Kuechly, although I think Jordan Bradbury is their cornerback that's had a good season. The defense as a whole has really underperformed. Cam Newton's playing hurt. Yes, Christian McCaffrey's still having a good year, but it's like what you said. He's the only guy. Maybe New Orleans can focus on just him and pretty much lock down the other guys. I think that New Orleans hasn't played great over the last couple games, and now that they're the number one seed in the NFC, they have a lot more riding on this game. So I think New Orleans is going to pull out a W in that game. The other matchup that I have is I like Atlanta versus Arizona. I see it as -9. Do you?
I see 10. I'll give you 9.
Okay. Either way, Arizona's they just played against Detroit, and Detroit's got one of the most awful defenses out there, and they only put up 3 points, and that was at home.
Very bad.
The Falcons just play better in their home dome, and they're getting some of their defensive players back healthy. Deion Jones being their best playmaker. I just think that they do well. Although Julio might not have a great game, they also have the Calvin Ridleys, the Austin Hoopers of the world that can really have a good game there, and their defense isn't all that great, but the Cardinals' offense just blows. So I like that spread. And who did I have for the other one? I forgot what the other one was. Why don't you just go into yours?
Typical. All right, I'm going to stay with my trend of giving way too many picks to be successful, but maybe I'll continue to be successful. All right, folks, you heard it here first. We're going to go bowling. Very exciting time of year. College football bowl season starts on Saturday. I'm going to give you 2 winners. Utah State -7.5. They're playing North Texas. Don't worry about the hook. Leave it at 7.5. Utah State is really good. Playing the Mountain West, decent quarterback, good defense. North Texas plays Conference USA. They play a dog schedule. Utah State rolls in this game. Utah State's going to be a top 25 team next year. The other one I'll give you is Arizona State. They're playing a ranked Fresno State team. Arizona State, I believe, hang on, let me grab the line. Arizona State catching 5. I think it's probably a close game. They may even win outright if you're looking for a little money line juice there. The money line is +180, but I'll give you the +5. I think Arizona State's just a good football team from the Pac-12, which was not a great conference this year, but it's far more competitive than the Mountain West. Give me Arizona State +5. Getting into the NFL slate, we'll go in chronological order. Starting on Thursday, give me the Chargers +3.5. We all know I love my Chiefs, but I think it's disrespectful to make the Chargers more than a 3-point dog to anyone right now, anyone in the NFL. I think the Chargers are a legit top 2, 3, 4 team in the NFL. I think it's disrespectful to give them more than 3 points, so I'll take the 3.5. We'll get into the Saturday slate. Give me Cleveland +3 at Denver. Denver's kind of a tough place to play, but I just think Cleveland's kind of a wagon right now. I guess buy it to 3.5. But I just, Mayfield's playing awesome. The offense is starting to click. The defense is okay, and Denver's offense is pretty putrid. So, like Cleveland there. Another one I like, so now we're into Sunday. I like Green Bay catching 7. You can leave it at 7. Yeah, Chicago probably wins the game, but Rodgers coming around. They got the new play caller, finally got rid of McCarthy. I just think Green Bay's kind of freed up, and they're excited to play football again a little bit. Rodgers was out there dropping dimes again last week. Like Green Bay in that spot, a tough division game. Maybe fairly lower scoring than we think, but I think the Chicago offense kind of coming back to earth a little bit. I'll get back on the wagon with Dallas here, +3. They've won 5 in a row. Indy's okay, but Dallas's defense is legit. I think they'll cause some turnovers. No, they're +3, but they're +2.5. I'll buy it to 3. And I like Dallas in that game. It's on the road, but they're rolling right now. The running game shouldn't be a problem to get going. The biggest thing they have to contend with is the front 7 or so for for Indy on offense, and I think they can do that with the pass rushers. I like Dallas there. I guess I'll trim this a little bit. I'm not gonna. I like Minnesota -7. That line is very strange. I think it was kind of one of the hotter teams, but Minnesota is sneakily still the number 6 seed in the NFC right now. I think they find a way to kind of stay there. So in order to do that, they're going to have to win some games. I think this is one of them, and I think they do it big. And then the last one I'll give you, which is my favorite play on the board, is New England -1 versus Pittsburgh. I think New England smashes Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh without Connor is not a very good Pittsburgh. I think Belichick is a good enough schemer to take either Brown or Juju out of the game, and I just don't think they'll be able to keep up. I think New England rolls in that one.
Yeah, just look what New England did against the Vikings. They double teamed Thielen and Diggs, and it kind of stopped everything else that happened around them. It's really going to be on the shoulders of Ben to outperform what Cousins did in order for them to have a good game there, and they never had a good history going against Brady and Gronk, so I'm not excited in watching that game. Just to wrap up my third pick, I found it. It was Baltimore -7.5. Do you see -7.5 going against Tampa?
I see 9. I don't know where you're getting your lines, pal.
I get them from Sportsline. Isn't that the same thing that you use?
You might be looking at like opening lines, though. I'm looking at live lines.
All right. Well, still, you said it was 9? Jesus.
Yeah, I'll give you 8. How about that?
All right. Tampa's offense isn't really all that great, whether they have Fitzpatrick or Jameis in there. Baltimore just performed really, really good against the Chiefs on the road. Their defense is legit. Playing at home, going against Tampa, I like Baltimore, unfortunately, in that matchup. All right. That pretty much does it for us. Anything else you got to leave us off with?
No, big weekend. Good luck to everybody out there. Good luck in the playoffs or, playing for a pick. These are an important couple of weeks. I hope that everyone's team stays healthy. My team, your team, whoever's team. It should be a fight with a fair fight with everybody's best guys, and this is the 2 of the more fun weekends of the year. These next 2.
Yeah, I'll piggyback off of that. I hope it's close matchups all around. Just makes it a lot more exciting, especially since whether or not you're in the losers bracket or the winners bracket, if you're in the losers bracket, you still have something to play for in regards to picking those rookie spots. And as we've seen in previous drafts, hey, if you get the number 6 pick instead of the number 4 pick, that could be detrimental. So I'm really excited for this weekend. A little anxious as well, but good luck to everybody, and we'll be back here next week for another issue of the Dynasty Dojo.
Bow to your sensei. Hey, it wouldn't be the worst thing if Todd Gurley